think we said it before. Trust your intuition, trust your gut. Watch the little subtle signs, whether they're good or bad, and read into those, because the little things are the big things. You have to be open. You have to risk being hurt, because you do want to present your full self, your true authentic self. So there is that chance that you're going to get hurt. But in my opinion, it's worth the risk.
Time to talk.
Oh. That looked awful.
It was. Wait till he sees that on the video. All right, folks, we're just having a little pre-recording humor here, but I think it's because we walked in out of 100-degree heat into a 47-degree room, and I think our brains are freezing. So today, I think we want to really talk about
what do we want to talk about?
I don't know.
Mr.
My brain
Sargent?
is crystallizing here. But we're talking soulmates, right? About soulmates and what's different in your dating, and how do you just distinguish the difference between dating people and then who's the one? Who do you think's the one?
Yeah.
I had met a lot of people that were, they were fun and engaging. For me, the difference was an energy level. It was it's something I can't put words to.
I totally agree. Yeah. Our energy was off the charts. It was a connection, such an instant connection that I had never experienced. It was amazing.
But didn't you kind of feel like maybe me? I was like, oh, this is almost like it feels too good to be true. And it's almost like this is good, but I'm going to wait for the other shoe to drop because it's not going to.
Honestly, no. Now, my friends, on the other hand, they were like, oh, sounds too good to be true. And they were like the ones trying to throw doubts in my head, I feel like, which rightfully so. It did seem too good to be true. And I think even maybe some of my family were worried that it was too good to be true, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same way. And I think we get in our own way a lot. So you're starting out and you're trying to get back into the dating scene. You're trying to meet new people. And we kind of put up roadblocks. Not all of us, obviously. Maybe you didn't. But for me, we put up these roadblocks that don't exist.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to meet somebody that's going to be toxic. All these negatives. And what happens is now we've preconditioned ourselves to things not to work out. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're not truly being yourself if you have up all those guards. They can't see you for who you truly are, and that's what you want, is a partner that loves you and sees you and that you can feel totally at ease with being yourself.
Yeah, but it's counterintuitive a little bit, isn't it? Because you're supposed to put yourself out there. You're supposed to just show up. I mean, that's how you get the best interaction and best experience. But the other side is it feels really shitty when you do that and you get either A, taken advantage of, or B, made a fool of, or worse. So what's that balance? How do you, what would you tell somebody? Because that's, I kind of like the analogy in my mind, it's kind of like a dance. So and it's a balance. You got to be yourself, but you don't want to be too vulnerable to where you're not being smart.
Right. Well, yeah, like you said, you definitely got to be safe. But on the other hand, you have to be open too, to allow that love to come into your life, is how I look at it. And maybe it's because I haven't had as many past traumas.
I thought you were going to say past relationships.
Oh, no, I just mean overall, I've had a very stable, secure, loving life. Now, I mean, I did have a bad experience with my ex-husband, but for some reason, I still didn't let that sour too much me going forward and finding a true match, a true soulmate. And I do believe that there is such a thing as a soulmate. Now, you'll hear some people say that there's more than one throughout a lifetime for some people. How do you feel about that? Oh, look, he's grinning. I think he believes in more than one.
The 7 that I've had. No. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I don't really. First, you'd have to define it. Like, I mean, I think we all had our. Well, I wouldn't say we all, but I know I had my first love, and I was younger, right? I was still in school, junior high and high school.
Yeah.
But it felt real.
Yeah, I think that's real love. It's young love, but I definitely think it's real.
Yeah, and so I mean, if you'd asked me then, I was like, well, that's to me. If you said at that point in my life, define soulmate, I would say, this is how I feel about this person.
Yeah.
But that was the only other time until I met you. So I think a lot of our conversations always come back to what's the determining factor on decision making or understanding if it's the person's right. And for me, just it always comes back to intuition.
Yeah.
And learning to listen to that intuition, because I followed the flow of my intuition when we met, and it was spot on.
Yeah, you still had some of your heels every now and then would drag, would kind of kick in the dirt, just how you said in the beginning, I will not get married. You were saying all the things you would not do. And you ended up having a change of opinion on those as we went along through our relationship.
Yeah, because all those...
Which is okay.
Sure. I mean, but all those were contemplations, and digging in was when I wasn't listening to my intuition. Yeah. It really was.
Yeah. And I mean, but you do also have to, some of those flags or things that halt you are sometimes there for a good reason too. I mean, when we first met, you obviously weren't ready to get married again. And I mean, and I fell for you hard and fast, I'll be honest. And felt like I wanted, oh, goodness gracious. He wasn't this cocky when I first met him. No, I'm teasing, you're not cocky. But I forgot what I was going to say. She got me laughing.
We did it again.
We did it again, yeah.
You were just saying when we first met.
It's gone.
Yeah,
that's gone. My short-term memory.
Yeah, so a takeaway from that whole conversation is be aware. Always just maintain your, be acutely aware when you're meeting new people. And be open, always show up as yourself, but listen to your intuition, because your intuition is going to tell you if there's danger, or if it could be as something as severe as, hey, this is a bad deal. Don't talk with this person. Or it could be as subtle as, it's just not the person for you. And it comes right in varying levels of loudness, I guess.
Yeah.
So one key thing about self-development and finding yourself and getting comfortable with yourself before you enter into the dating world, I would say, is learning to hear that still small voice inside of you. Because it's real. It is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, even thinking back with my past marriage, there were voices, there were things even at that young age that were kind of like, and I didn't listen.
Exactly. I think we were talking before, and I said way back when I was dating the woman that I married, my first wife, when we were first dating, my dad and I were talking about he'd met her. And while my dad and I didn't have a great relationship, and I was, at the age where I didn't think he knew anything, it's surprising how the older you get, the more you realize your parents knew.
Right.
But at that time, he looked at me and he said, he goes, I don't think she's the one for you. Now, did he like her? Yeah. Was she, and we ended up, having some wonderful children together. But he knew, he could see, he knew me enough. He knew me better than I knew myself. And he's like, I just don't think she's right. And of course, I'm not going to listen to him. I was, 19 or something. What do I know?
Yeah. And I mean, and that's not to say everybody in the periphery know exactly what's going on in your relationship, but they a lot of times do have a lot of valuable insight that listen to your loved ones. They may not know every, like I said, aspect of the relationship, but they can see a lot from the outside. And I wish I kind of would have listened to those voices of reason as well. But you always learn, and you go down different paths for a reason, and so I try to look at it that way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's just as important when you start dating, especially if you're dating the same person a couple, 3 or 4 times, if it's more than just hanging out, is to have those conversations with those people that know you and that you trust, because they're going to be the ones that are going to notice subtle changes in you as your relationship progresses. So I had an example in my life, a really good friend. I got into a semi-long-term relationship, which wasn't healthy. And they noticed these changes in me, like, hey, you're not as happy, you're not as outgoing, you're more reserved, you're not doing as much with your friends. They could see a noticeable change in my personality and how I was showing up, and I couldn't really see it. But they were certainly red flags, and it took me a long time to heed their instruction, if you will. And they were right.
Yeah. So and if you would have paused and really thought about it, you probably would have known in your gut too that it wasn't right. I think you kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of it and don't even realize you're somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Yep. You get too close to it. Mm-hmm. So having those people in your life to sounding board, that mirror, I think it's really important. And the other thing is, and somebody told me this a long time ago, the power of the and, called the power of the and that means that there's not always, everything's not mutually exclusive. And whether it's in business or a friendship or relationships, it doesn't have to be one or the other. So in this case, what I'm talking about is you don't have to either keep your individuality and your identity by staying unattached or single, or being in a relationship that you're really involved in. But the power of the and says you can be both. You can be fully invested and committed in a long-term harmonious relationship and maintain that individuality. And I know that because that's what I have that's what we have.
Yeah, and if you find yourself in a relationship where you have to give up yourself, you're in the wrong relationship. Right,
and I know people like that in my life.
Yeah, I lived it.
Right, I did too.
Yeah, for many years.
Mm. It's one thing to say, like, when you're in that season of life where you're raising children, life's just busy, and a lot of us are in there. It's easy to lose maybe some sense of self because you're so invested in raising your kids.
I agree.
And that's understandable. There's still a balance there. You still need to maintain that individuality, and that could be a whole nother conversation when we talk about parenting.
Yeah.
Because there's certainly a lot of things that I would do differently. Sometimes we just completely set ourselves aside.
Yeah.
For our kids
and your relationship. A lot of people set their relationship aside too, and that's definitely something that you continually have to work on. Even if you're soulmates per se like us, you still have to put in the work and the effort.
Yeah, I don't think anything really good comes out of that when you completely set yourself aside because you think that, there's a lot of reasons why we do that. I did it.
Yeah.
You did it. But had to do it over again.
And you're responsible for keeping that individuality. You can't put that on somebody else. It's your responsibility.
Hopefully you find somebody that encourages that individuality.
Right.
Because if they understand, like for us, like I understand your need to have your, not just your alone time, but your sense of, to explore your own identity, your creativity, your time, your connection with friends outside of us. Like that makes you, when you have the opportunity to invest time in things, people, and events outside of me, I still benefit from it.
Yeah.
You show up as a better person. And I think so, and we both give that to each other. So to kind of land this plane, what are the things that you would tell somebody when they're starting to date? Things to think about.
Trust your intuition, trust your gut. Watch the little subtle signs, whether they're good or bad, and read into those because the little things are the big things. You have to be open. You have to risk being hurt. because you do want to present your full self, your true authentic self. So there is that chance that you're going to get hurt. But in my opinion, it's worth the risk.
Mm. Yeah, I think I echo everything you said. I would give people one little activity that they could start to play with or practice when it comes to learning to listen to your intuition, because we talk about all the time, well, just listen to your intuition. Look, but the question
easier
is,
said than done sometimes.
Yeah. You know, like, what the hell does that mean? You know, what does that mean? Like, what's it sound like? I don't even know where to start. But from also a little activity or practice that I used to do when I just years ago, when I was becoming aware of the importance of listening to my intuition and understanding what it was, is I would get up in the morning, and it'd be nothing necessarily important going on during the day, but I would get up in the morning and have a kind of like a little self-reflection, quiet time, and I would make the intention, like, I'm just gonna like try to be present and be aware today. And whenever I feel or hear or sense something in me prodding me to make a decision, say a word, take a different road to work, whatever. Whenever I felt like there was something that was prompting me, even if it seemed like odd, I was just gonna follow it. Obviously, as long as it wasn't something that was, dangerous. So you start these little things and you get quiet, and you might feel, oh, you know what, I got to go something tells me I need to stop at the ice cream place and get ice cream, or I need to go into the store, whatever. Just
you
learn.
must hear the ice cream voice a lot then.
I hear a lot. But follow those little things and get in the habit of trying to pick up on those little cues. And when you do, just follow the prompt. And what will happen is you will find continually that there was a purpose and a reason, and they were always to your benefit. So it's just like working out or anything else. It becomes you have to make it a discipline. And when you get used to doing that, used to hear it, and then you see the outcome, then you do it more and then more and then more and then more.
Yeah,
and
before that's good advice.
And before you know it, it becomes a part of who you are, at least a bigger part. And you'll make better decisions. And life has a way of becoming much easier.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone out there has a tremendous amount of success in their dating, and just remember to don't put yourself second.
Yeah.
So,
I love you.
I love you too.